Order. This will be the Monday, February 1st meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Roswell. I'd like to invite Jack Cassidy to come forward and lead us in the pledge. If we'd all stand. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jack Cassidy, if you would come to the microphone and tell us what troop you're with and what your business is here tonight.
I'm Jack Cassidy here with Troop 431, and I'm working on my Communications Merit Badge.
Good to have you here tonight, Jack.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Orleans. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'd like to invite the Roswell Roots Committee to come forward while I read the proclamation. And this is my favorite month of the year, Roswell Black History Month. Whereas the celebration of Black History Month was begun by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the son of former slaves, and Black History Month has been celebrated nationally in America since 1926. And whereas the Historic and Cultural Affairs Division of the City of Roswell, Recreation Parks Historic and Cultural Affairs Department, working with a volunteer steering committee, established the Roswell Roots Festival of Black History Culture in 2002. And whereas the Groveway Community Group, the Roswell Regional Library, the North Fulton Child Development Center, the Roswell Visitor Center, and the First Baptist Church of Roswell are also sponsoring events. And whereas the Hammonds House Museum, Kennesaw State University, Red Door Playhouse, the Georgia Poetry Society, Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist Church, and the Teaching Museum North are partnering with the city in support of various events and exhibits. And whereas the 2010 Roswell Roots Festival includes a total of 5 exhibits and 12 special events, including a step dance competition, a poetry slam, storytelling, the Unity Concert, tea and hat fashion shows, and more. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim all of February 2010 as Black History Month and invite all of our citizens to recognize this special celebration of African American heritage and culture and participate in the events of the Roswell Roots Festival. And with that, I'd like to recognize Morgan Timmis with our Historic and Cultural Affairs Department.
Thank you, Mayor, members of Council. This, too, is one of my favorite months of the year, and I think I say this every year. Our challenge is never to have enough going on, but our challenge is not to have too much going on, because there's so much interesting history and culture to celebrate in Roswell. And this year we're very excited to have a few new partners. You mentioned Kennesaw State University. If you notice the exhibit downstairs in the rotunda, that is on loan from their History and Holocaust Museum about the Tuskegee Airmen. It's a really wonderful exhibit. Back again with us is the Hammonds House Art Museum from Southwest Atlanta, and that artist just installed his exhibit today in the lobby of the Cultural Arts Center. He does some amazing collage fabric works. You mentioned that there are 5 permanent month-long exhibits that will be up throughout the month, as well as 12 events. And Pastor Lewis is here with Zion Church, who will be participating in our Unity Concert, which is going to be the biggest one we've ever had. We have 5 churches participating this year, along with the Greater Atlanta Adventist Academy Choir. which consists of 80 students from grades 9 through 12. So it's going to be a fantastic, rousing evening of music. And I know one of the mayor's favorites, and mine as well, is our poetry slam.
I'm on the date right now.
It's a really unique event. I encourage everyone to come on the 18th to experience this. It's competitive poetry, and folks present their own works that are memorized, and a very dramatic presentation, and there are elimination rounds and winners. So, and we have some wonderful other events, and I'll let Gail Bohannon, who's here, tell us about the Groveway program.
Mayor and Council, Groveway Community Group will be having our program on, of course, Super Bowl Sunday again at 3 o'clock, and we promise we'll have you out by 5 to get your party started. But come, do a pre-party with us first. Chairman Fulton County will be our MC. John Eves will be our MC for the program, and other local dance groups in the community will be participating this year also. So please come out and support us and get the Super Bowl started.
Our pastor is
Couldn't talk him
He's not
into
used
it.
to speaking in public.
So there are copies of the brochure for the audience by the agenda. So I encourage everybody to come out.
I want to thank the steering committee and the Cultural Arts Department for a great festival. It brings warmth and light to an otherwise cold and sometimes dreary month. It makes this a great month. My two particular favorites are slamming in the suburbs. If you haven't been to a poetry slam, it's a real event, and I encourage you to come. And my other favorite event is the Unity Concert. I always call it the Battle of the Choirs. It's the best choir music you'll hear all year round. It's a great group of choirs, and they're very competitive. We don't announce the winner, but they're very competitive. I encourage you. You'll not hear any better music. It's a great month. We have. Are these in the back of the room?
They are in the back. Yes, sir.
We have a brochure on this in the back of the room, and don't miss it. There's more than we can all attend, but there's something here for everybody. I encourage you to attend. Thank you for coming tonight. Let's have a hand for Roswell Ruth. We have a long agenda tonight, but I promised Brandon Beach I'd put him on the top of the agenda. Brandon is no, he's here. He's here for the work session. Are we done? No. All right. I'm sorry. Page 2. All right. I skipped the whole page here. At this time, I'll call upon Councilmember Betty Price, and I think she's going to hit Brandon's item first.
The first item, I'd like to call up Alice Wakefield for information on proposed future resolution adopting the urban redevelopment plan and boundary map for the purpose of applying for the Opportunity Zone program.
Okay. This matter is before Mayor and City Council to allow the city to move forward with establishing an Opportunity Zone program. While we had asked the Mayor and Council to put this item on the agenda for approval of a resolution and adoption of the urban redevelopment plan, we asked that you not take action tonight and to forward this to the next meeting on February the 8th. In our haste to put all of this together and to make sure there was a public hearing, we missed some fine print that said it had to be advertised in the newspaper. We have since taken care of that, and it will be advertised this Wednesday. We have posted the redevelopment plan along with the maps, and we did make the change that the committee asked us to make on the maps on the website. One of the requirements is to make it available for the general public review. Nevertheless, we believe that this is a great program that will benefit the city of Roswell. It's a program that is unique to Roswell and North Fulton. As part of the Opportunity Zone Tax Credit Program, businesses are eligible for a state job tax credit of $3,500 per employee for 5 years. There is no restriction on the type of job, and only 2 or more jobs need to be created to be eligible. I do know we do have tonight some members of the community, the business community, that would like to speak about this program. Thank you.
Before you step down, does the council have any questions for Alice? Thank you, Alice. We'll get back to you. At this time, I'd like to recognize the gentleman who brought this opportunity to us, Brandon Beach, Director of the Chamber of Commerce. Brandon, if you want to come forward. And Penn Hodge, with the Chamber, and Al Nash, former Chairman of North Fulton Chamber. This was, I'm not going to give them credit for creating this, but I'm going to give them full credit for bringing this to Roswell's attention and getting this on our radar screen and encouraging us to move this forward. And Brandon, if you want to tell the audience and the council some more about the benefit of this program.
Well, Mayor, thank you for having us this evening. We have Joe Young also with us, and Penn and Al, and Joe will answer any technical questions. This is an opportunity that only exists in North Fulton in this one area because of the 2000 census and the way the census tract works. This is a win-win for the citizens, for the business community, and for Roswell. And this time right now with unemployment hovering over 10%, we need any tool in our toolbox to create and attract jobs to the area. Here in North Fulton, we're blessed to have great schools, great community. Roswell has a historic district, and we've got fine high schools, and so we're just blessed from that standpoint. But this gives us a tool in our toolbox when we go out to attract companies. They can get a $3,500 tax credit for 5 years. And it's different from other tax plans. You hear about some things they're talking about in the legislature right now for tax incentives if you stay 24 months and you hire X amount of employees and they make X amount of dollars. This is very simple. If you hire 2 employees or more, it doesn't matter if it's a low-level job or a high-level job, they get the $3,500 tax credit. And it's incremental growth, so it's good for us because we're going to be creating more jobs. And I know there's a few opportunities already in that zone that I think we can go after pretty aggressively when we have this to offer in our toolbox. So I'm very happy that y'all are going to go forward with this.
Brandon, as the executive director for the Chamber of Commerce, what impact do you think that will have on attracting businesses and creating jobs in the city of Roswell?
Well, you look at that area right there, it's ripe for development. We're thinking some call centers. We also think Kimberly-Clark would be in that area. And there's talk Kimberly-Clark would bring some new jobs from out of state. So you've got some incremental growth there on a campus that already exists. So there's several opportunities there in that whole area. Ben?
Well, when Joe first told us about this opportunity, I said, well, let's look at the map. Let's see what qualifies. And what amazed me when we looked at the map was when you go up the 400 corridor, there's a pod down in downtown Atlanta, and then there's a pod way up in Forsyth County. And believe it or not, along that corridor, there's only one area that's impoverished, and it's in Roswell, which was an eye-opener to me and something I'm sure you guys already knew. But this thing could really have a dramatic effect on economic development for the North Fulton area. And to me, it's a no-brainer because it doesn't cost anything.
Well, I just think, we hear from a lot of our citizens, what are we going to do about economic development and closed up facilities? And as Brandon and Joe certainly and Penn can relate to you, if those 2 employees, think about all the retail along, let's just say Holcomb Bridge Road. That could be a potential. And the beauty thing is, and as a citizen and taxpayer of Roswell, it's not going to cost the city anything. This actually comes off the state. It's a state program, not a local program. So we really think that it has got a huge benefit. It's probably one of the most outstanding tools, as Brandon has referred, that we can have in our toolbox. And I think that we work to get this done, that we're going to see great results, and it's going to pay tremendous dividends. So I hope and you will feel the same way, and we'll kind of move forward. This and Joe Young is here, and he is very familiar with the state legislation and can answer any questions anyone has.
Joe, just to for the audience and the council's already heard this. Now, I understand to qualify, we have to have a census tract which has 15% below the poverty level.
That's correct, sir. As of the 2007.
We have 2 census tracts along Highway 9 that qualify us.
Yes, sir.
And those are really immediately adjacent to this city hall.
Yes, sir.
And what other qualifications are required to qualify to become eligible, for our businesses to be eligible for this tax credit?
Tax credit is available in the 15% unemployed census block groups and in an area surrounding that, which allows you to logically develop corridors which can actually employ people. Census is driven by homes, of course, and we typically don't work directly from the homes. I think the staff has done an excellent job of structuring a design that would allow for the tax credit to be available in some surrounding areas and not just in the census tract itself, in the affected census tract itself. The number $3,500 per job is actually a little better than it sounds. First of all, most job tax credits in the state, including the one that's available in Fulton County today, are exclusively available against income tax. Most companies will structure themselves in such a way they show very little income at the end of the year, and most of those income tax credits will fall off the page at the end of several years. This tax credit is designed so that it can be taken against withholding tax. The employer simply, rather than forwarding withholding tax for the employees to the state, retains it. It's also federal and state tax exempt, so it's essentially profit to the employer.
And who makes now what will be the process to apply for this eligibility?
Once a redevelopment plan is approved and an application is submitted, the Department of Community Affairs, of which the commissioner is Mike Beatty, former state senator, will make a decision on whether they believe, in the commissioner's opinion, the area is characterized by blight and disinvestment and is eligible for redevelopment.
So the law is already in existence. It does not have to go to the legislature. We have to have approval from the Department of Community Affairs.
Yes, sir.
And what is the time frame in which this is it reasonable to expect an answer from Department of Community Affairs once we approve this plan and make a submission?
It can be as little as 60 days up to, some of them have been hanging around now for 6 or 8 months, up to a year. The quicker the better, because
we hope to get ours in 60 days, though, right?
I would certainly hope so. The quickest one I saw, which was Union City, which has also been the most successful so far, it was one of the first ones, was done in about 60 days.
And you want to share with the council the success what the Union City project did?
Union City was approved in February of 2009. Within approximately 60 days, they had commitments for one 750 job facility, a second of 550 employees. The first one was a warehousing distribution center for Kraft. The second one was Dendrian Pharmaceuticals to start the center of a sort of biotechnical area down there. Both of those companies conveyed that their sole reason to select there instead of either someplace else in Georgia or out of state, in the case of Dendrian, was the availability of the tax credit.
All right. So how long is this eligibility window?
10 years.
So any time within those, if you create new jobs within this opportunity zone and you document the creation of those new jobs, you will get that $3,500 for credit for 5 years.
For 5 years thereafter. So you can receive the credit. The businesses within the city can be receiving the credit 15 years after approval. And it doesn't say it can't be renewed. It simply expires by its own terms after 10 years, and it's possible to renew it. We may have another system in place by then. We don't know.
Does the council have any questions? Betty Price.
Assuming that it's approved, and I certainly hope it will be, is there any administrative function required by the city after that?
The city has taken on a small administrative function of, I believe they propose, and this is a very good idea from the staff, through their business license division to send a brochure or publication to every business every year when it renews its business license and say, do you understand that if you add employees, you're eligible, here's the form, send it to this address, they will be verified by DCA that there's a new employee on your books, and then the Department of Revenue will be notified. The granting of the tax credit is automatic. You don't have to apply for the tax credit in the sense that a company goes to the Department of Revenue and says, we would like it. They're entitled to it if they hire the employee and file the paperwork. The difference between this and what you sometimes heard about, the quality job tax credit, this is the best job tax credit in the state, because unlike the quality job tax credit, which has actually a higher upper limit of $5,000, to get to $5,000 in Fulton County, you would have to be paying average from the lowest employee to the highest new employee brought in, an average of around $115,000 to $120,000 per employee. That's because its eligibility is based upon the average price, or the average wage in your county. As you've seen, most of our state's tax credits are skewed toward rural areas. This is one that actually works in metropolitan Atlanta and works very well.
Councilman Orleans.
Joe, at $3,500, that's a one-time credit?
5 times, sir.
5 times, over 5 years, right?
Over 5 years.
Once every year for 5 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Other questions? Gentlemen, thank you very much. Alice, if you would come back to the thing. And again, Brandon and Penn and Al and Joe, thank you very much for bringing this opportunity to us. The city will be hiring Joe Young to help us see this through the legislature with the technical expertise, and we hope to make that as short of hiring time as possible, Joe. Yes, Alice.
Yes, sir.
What is the next step if this council wishes to move forward?
The next step is to have the public hearing on February the 8th and to take action, and once the resolution is executed, then staff will hand deliver the application to DCA. Between the public hearing on February the 8th, and now staff will be tying up loose ends and cleaning up the document, making those changes that were recommended by council members. Nothing substantial, but just some cleanup to the document.
If this council votes to approve this on February 8th after the public hearing, how long before we'll have this application down to DCA?
I would say February the 10th.
Thank you. This is not an official public hearing, but this time I will open it up to the floor. Anybody have any questions or comments? Gentlemen, you've done a good job of answering questions. Any further discussion by council? This is purely informational. We'll not be able to take a vote until after we have a public hearing. Any further questions or comments from council? Councilmember Price, if you'd call the next agenda item. Gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. You may return to your full-time job.
I'd like to ask Alice Wakefield to return to the lectern for the next item, approval for the mayor and or city administrator to sign a contract with Caldwell Landscape, Inc. for a tree planting project in the amount of $33,328.94.
Yes, Caldwell Landscaping, Inc. Is the lowest local bidder in the amount of $33,328.94. This project is part of the Tree Care Planting and Replacement Master Plan for the year 2009, and staff would ask that this be approved.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion? Yes, sir. Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Wakefield, do we have either a map or a listing of where these trees are going to be located?
Yes, sir. That was on the consent agenda that was voted on earlier. There's a list of the locations where the trees should be planted between 2004 and 2012. This has been revised a few times because of the drought, and this most recent amendment to this list was based on a direction from the committee to add the old Alabama Road tree replacement for Roswell DOT for 2010.
Is it possible to put this on the overhead for the audience to see? I did have a question concerning this. Might be a little hard to read.
Sure. It might be. Okay, I need help.
And which items does this address? Is it 1 through 27?
This address. Okay, it will be these items. Items 24, 25, 26, and 27.
Okay, so 1 through 23 were completed, and then 24 through 27 is this.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Does the council have any other questions for Ms. Wakefield? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Price. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments regarding this motion? Any further discussion about Councilman Eichelhardt?
I'm going to abstain from this vote because the owners of Caldwell Landscape gave me a substantial contribution in this last campaign. Well, not substantial probably for most, but substantial for me. And I haven't talked with them about this, haven't talked with any of the staff throughout the process or any of my colleagues, but and I don't think there's any issue with it. But just to be disclosure and careful on that, I'm going to abstain.
Any further comment before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That's Councilman Orleans, Councilmember Price, Councilmember Wynn, Councilmember DiPolito, and Councilmember Diamond in favor, and Councilmember Eichelhardt abstaining. That motion passes. This time I'll call upon Environmental Public Works Liaison, Councilmember Becky Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one agenda item. It's approval of a resolution to submit a grant project list for the FY 2011 federal appropriations request through the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District. Mr. Mooring.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. A couple of years ago, we entered into an agreement with other communities that are part of the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District to seek federal assistance from the Environmental Protection Agency, the Corps of Engineers, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Each year we participate in conferences and calls with the colleagues that are part of that and submit a request. And so this is simply a resolution affirming the authority for the mayor or city administrator to bring these forward. The 4 projects that are part of our Water Resource Division master plan that have been identified for this program this year are the water supply, intake, rehabilitation. This is for our water intake on Big Creek that periodically gets overloaded with sediment and debris and has to be shut down. The Big Creek Subbasin rehabilitation, this is the area of Big Creek immediately upstream of the water plant where there's been a lot of bank sloughing, trees that have previously fallen in or that are threatening to fall in, cleaning that up, improving and stabilizing the banks. Reconstruction of 2 dams at Lita Thompson Park. These dams have been in rough shape since the time that property was acquired, and the Recreation Department has been unable thus far to get assistance to make those repairs, and so they're currently unsafe for people that are hiking in that vicinity. And finally, creation or development of an additional water supply elevated tank. This would be probably in the southwest part of our water service area to improve flow and reliability. Those are the projects, and we recommend your approval.
Boring now, is it my understanding that, am I correct in assuming that this is not a motion to approve a grant, to accept a grant? This is more of a wish list than a
Yes, sir.
money's
That's correct.
appropriated, we're approving list.
That's exactly right. At such time as action
This is our wish list, and if money's appropriated,
then we would have the opportunity, and I should say, typically there are local match requirements in the case of the money that we have previously received and future monies that we would receive under the EPA program, the STAG program, State and Tribal Affairs Grants. We have put up the value of the Big Creek Park wetlands area, and some of that value is remaining, and so that would go against our match. But these, because they're different programs, there's no way to know today what the match would be, but typically between 25% and 45% of the total.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Mooring? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhart. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimous. This time we'll hear from our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2.6, Boards and Commissions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. Whereas the City of Roswell desires to update its Code of Ordinances to clarify the terms of appointment to boards and commissions of the city and limit the number of terms that may be served on boards and commissions of the city. And whereas the Mayor and Council have determined it is in the best interest of the public to appoint members of boards and commissions for only a limited number of terms, now therefore, to accomplish the foregoing, the Mayor and Council, pursuant to their authority, adopt the following ordinance. Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2.6, Boards and Commissions, Section 2.6.3, Terms of Office of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, is hereby amended by deleting said section in its entirety and adding a new section 2.6.3 to read as follows. Board and commission members shall serve 3-year terms. A member of any board or commission shall not serve more than 3 full consecutive terms on any board or commission after adoption of this ordinance, but may at the election of mayor and council be appointed to serve on another board or commission. If members are currently serving an unexpired term, said term shall not be considered an initial term for purposes of these term limits. The remainder of this ordinance is incorporated by reference.
Mr. Halsey, which boards and commissions does this apply to?
It applies to all of them except HPC and the Recreation Board Commission.
Could the council choose to apply this to the HPC and the Rec Commission if they wished?
No, they cannot, because those are determined by state law.
Is it? I thought I understood that the term was set by state law, but the renewal of the term we could determine whether or not these had to be filled or they would expire.
You can do that, but this, in the way this is written, you couldn't apply this.
So it would take a separate ordinance.
Correct.
But so the council could choose to set term limits on these other boards, but it would take a separate ordinance.
Correct. For the Recreation Commission, it's a 5-year term. You could set however many terms you wished.
And the Rec and the HPC?
It's a term of 3 years, so it's in line with these now.
Right. Is there any questions for Mr. Halsey? Do we have a motion? Move for approval of the second reading by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Price.
Would you clarify then, please, if we were to limit the number of terms on Recreation Commission, we cannot do that with this document?
Given the way this is written, we would need a separate one to apply specifically to the Recreation Commission and to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That passes unanimously. I would ask the council to consider looking at the Rec Commission and the HPC. This term limits were considered at my request. I believe for the same reasons that we need term limits on all the other boards, commissions, it's appropriate to look at term limits on the HPC and the Rec Commission. I don't think they're unique in the sense of service on that board, and I'd ask the council to consider bringing forward an ordinance to set term limits on those boards too. Mrs. Love, does that conclude the agenda?
Yes, sir. We have a work session.
We're adjourned. We've got a work session in room 220 to discuss the new bridge proposed over 400 and Big Creek.